Weapons cannot cut it, nor can fire burn it. Water cannot wet it, nor can wind dry it. And this is in chapter 2, Sloka 23. Now the another point that brings Robert Browning very close to Vedic vision of life is his philosophy, his belief in the place of evil in the divine plan. He always believed in the fact that God has designed our life as a whole. And therefore, when we talk about youth, when we talk about adulthood, when we talk about old age, every age has got its significance. And therefore, the things which could not be done in youth can be done in the times of adulthood and thereafter in the old age also. Now, he was such an staunch believer in the presence of God, in the presence of Almighty, that again he seems to say, and that has almost become a code for everyone as far as Robert Browning is concerned, and he says, God is in heaven, all is right with the world. The another point that brings him very close to Vedic vision of life is the place of evil in the divine plan. And here in the poem, the apt Vogler, he says, the evil is null, is not, is silence employing sound. What was good shall be good, with for evil so much good more. And same are the things which are being resonated in Upanishad also. You must have heard the name of this Upanishad, Kathopanishad. And in this Upanishad, it is being said, and I read it out, evil is a moral condition in man's progress, for man cannot be victorious without a foe. It is consciousness of evil that will help man advance. And Robert Browning believed in the same philosophy. He did believe in the fact that when we talk about Robert Browning, when we talk about Vedic life, when we talk about our life as such, our life is full of so many things which we consider are evil. But in reality, they are not evil. They do have their significance, and God has designed them. In one of his poems, he says that every difficulty, every trouble, every sorrow, every trial is being sent to this world because God wants to give you a better chance. And therefore, every rebuff is a welcome for him. The another very significant point about Robert Browning is that he always believed in the fact that man is divine. In one of his poems, he says, and the name of the poem is Paracelsus. He says, God is glorified in man. Same is the case if we minutely study Vedic vision of life and the other things, other discourses of Vedic life. They don't believe in the fact that soul, that man and God are two separate entities. God resides in man and man is God. This is the whole philosophy that resounds in the whole Vedic philosophy. And therefore, when we try to study Robert Browning, we should relate it to our discourses, the discourses that relate to us, because thereby we would be able to comprehend Robert Browning in a better way. The another thing that brings him very close to Vedic vision of life is his unflinching faith in the vast potentialities of man. His unflinching faith in the Creator, his trust in the Creator. He says, when he talks about the transmigration of soul and the theory of rebirth, he talks about it and says that it is death is no more, and I am not afraid of death also. Here, dear friends, you can make a comparison between John Donne and Robert Browning also. When we study John Donne also in his religious poetry seems to proclaim like Robert Browning that man or soul is immortal and therefore it cannot die. Death cannot kill a man. This is the proclamation made by him from time and again in his poetry. 1 minute passed and we awake eternally. This is the message that he seems to convey. And therefore, what we find that the things that the postulates which are being cherished by Robert Browning were equally cherished by the Vedic Vijna, or it is the other way round, that Robert Browning borrowed immensely from Vedic Vijna of life. I don't say that he had read Vedic Vijna or Vedic philosophy, but it is hardly debatable that whatever he has got to say has got so many resemblances with the Vedic Vijna of life, which are cherished not in India but in the whole world. And thereby the demarcation that we very often draw, that east is east and west is west, explodes here, because basically we live today and we boast of living in a global world, but there have been poets like Robert Browning and the other poets who embraced everything that was good in every walk of life and tried to project them to the world through their poetic output. Dear friends, there are so many other things also which can be talked about Browning. The poems, basically the dramatic monologues which he wrote, speak a lot about his philosophy, and the dramatic monologues which abound in the Vedic Vijna, primarily they are Rabbi Ben Ezra, Grammarian's Funeral, Porphyria's Lover, Last Ride Together, and the poems like Prospice. In the poem Prospice, he is not at all sorry at the death of his wife, but rather he says that we would be going, and I would be meeting him in the heaven, and therefore even death is not to be felt sorry about. Dear friends, after having listened to the discourse, you must have ample queries, and therefore now if you do have any question, I would like to welcome questions from your side, so regarding anything that you have not been able to comprehend.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agrawal, sir.
Thank you.
Really, it was a very thought-provoking lecture. Sir, as a student of English literature, we have read Browning many a times. But this is the first time that we are getting this type of appreciation of his poetry or the Vedic philosophy in his poetry, and the combination of his poetry or of his ideology with the ideas of the Bhagavad Gita, the theory of karma. So during your lecture, several points came to my mind, and I would like to put those queries to you. Sir, Robert Browning is an eminent poet of the Victorian age, and Victorian age has been the age of conflict marked by the contrast of thought. On the one hand, Robert Browning being a robust optimist, and Alfred Tennyson and Thomas Hardy believing in destiny as the sole factor of man's survival in this world. My question therefore is, has Robert Browning got to say anything about the role of destiny in his poetry, sir?
Okay, thank you very much. This is a very good question that you have raised, because basically this question underlies the spirit of the Victorian era. Robert Browning condemned, in fact, said this is foolish to talk about destiny. Like Thomas Hardy, he did not believe in it, and he said that everything that comes to us, evils, as I said in my lecture also, evils, sorrows and sufferings, they do have their place, and they don't degrade man or the mankind, but they pave the way to achieve their loftier aims. And therefore, this striking balance, striking contradiction, brings to our mind the two facets of thought which were happening at the same time during the Victorian era. One was the robust optimism, and the other was the trend of pessimism. The trend of pessimism was the trend of the time, being represented by the poets, very eminent poet like Alfred Tennyson and the novelist like Thomas Hardy. But then destiny and fate did not have any role to play as far as Browning is concerned. And the same thing is being cherished by Vedic vision of life, that there is nothing like destiny. There is nothing like destiny. It is all karma. If you do the karma, if you do the action, you will achieve the fruits. This is the whole message that has come to us from the poetry of Browning.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, there is one more point which raised in my mind. Robert Browning talks about death and rebirth. The same thing we see in Bhagavad Gita also. For example, in Bhagavad Gita also it says that soul never dies, even if the body dies, even if the body perishes. Sir, I would like to put one more point here. There is a predominating philosophical aspect of Vedic darshan in the poetry of Robert Browning, and especially belief in the theory of rebirth. Although you have supplied inferences, could you please tell me what are the specific poems where he hints at this, and what are his thoughts on rebirth particularly?
Okay, thank you very much again, because this is very specific question that you have raised. As a representative poem, I would like to suggest only one. I would say Prospice. But then there are certain other poems also. As I said during the discourse that I delivered, that if you read Grammarian's Funeral, if you read Rabbi Ben Ezra, and if you read this Porphyria's Lover or The Last Ride Together, you also come across the inferences that speak of the fact that he did believe in the theory of rebirth, that the soul never dies, it is the body only that dies or that takes another shape. So basically I would suggest you students to read the poem Prospice, which is very representative of this thought. And let me remind you that it was written during the troubled times, means when Thomas Hardy's wife was, when the wife of Browning was dead, and it was occasioned by the death of the poet's wife, but at the same time there is no pathetic strain, and the reason being that this pathetic strain does not exist in his poetry because of this belief only that we are going to meet in next life. And Prospice, therefore, I would like to suggest, that is a very simple poem to read also. I would suggest you to carry this poem all the time with you and learn some or the other thing from this small piece of poetry.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I would like to mention it here that Robert Browning has been prescribed at the undergraduate and postgraduate courses in many of the universities in Gujarat, and I am sure this lecture might have been very fruitful to the students of Gujarat. Sir, last question I would like to put, if you permit. So there is
Please do.
There is incarnation and reincarnation theory both in Vedic philosophy and Christianity. Does Robert Browning touch upon it?
Let me bring to your mind 2-3 points. Again, I would like to thank you very much for this excellent question that you have raised. Now, theory of reincarnation and incarnation is common both to Hindu philosophy and Christianity. As a staunch believer in Christianity, Robert Browning did have, as I said in the beginning also, unflinching faith in Christianity. And therefore there was no question that he would ignore Christianity. But at the same time, maybe that this is a sheer coincidence that his belief in reincarnation or carnation, incarnation or reincarnation, resonate in Vedic Vijna also. But then there is a difference also. When we have a look at Vedic philosophy, we find that there have been in Bhagavad Gita also Lord Krishna says to Arjun, and he says, Yada yada hi dharmasya garlani bharti bhavata. Means he says, Arjun, whenever there spreads sin and crime on this earth, I descend in some or the other form. And therefore we find incarnation and reincarnation in the form of Ram, in the form of Krishna, in so many other forms also. But when we talk about Christianity, Christianity does have a single incarnate, and that is Christ. And therefore, here I would like to say that maybe that here we may have the theory of more than one incarnates, but at the same time, he does believe in the theory that God is mighty, he is all powerful, and therefore descends on this earth in various forms. But the basic difference between the two is that there in Christianity there is a single incarnate, and in Hindu Vijna or Vedic Vijna of life there are so many incarnates which we come across when we read the Vedic sources or Vedic books. Now here I would like to make a very significant point, and the significant point is that when we read Robert Browning, we should not pay attention to these petty differences which are there, but at the same time we should believe in the fact that at least there are thoughts, or the thought is similar to Christianity, to Vedic Vijna, and to Robert Browning, and that thought is the thought of incarnation. Maybe that Christianity might have believed in single incarnate, and therefore, since Robert Browning was the product of Christianity in a way, but at the same time, he tried to embrace, as I said in the beginning, everything that seemed noble to him from other religions also. So maybe that in this case, he was close to Christianity, but at the same time, we cannot say that he did not believe in this theory. He believed in this theory, and again, the good examples we shall find in Rabbi Ben Ezra, Grammarian's Funeral, and Prose P.K.
Sir, is there any other poet in the Victorian age who has the same philosophy, Vedic philosophy?